Well, this is it. After nearly 40 years worth of Australian production, the next generation imported Holden Commodore is almost here. This car will arrive in showrooms from 2018, but before then, we've been afforded an early prototype drive. Let's check it out.
The 2018 Holden Commodore will be an all-new model from the ground up, sharing its platform with the European Opel Insignia, which hails from the same German factory. There are loads of changes to get your head around, but in a nutshell, the 5th generation model is between 200 and 300 kilograms lighter than the predecessor VF. It's also fractionally smaller and fitted with more standard equipment and safety technology. Power will come from a choice of 4-cylinder petrol and 4-cylinder diesel engines, along with a 6-cylinder naturally aspirated flagship driven here. As for a V8 or even a twin-turbo V6, Holden says there isn't one, as it won't fit on the Commodore's new E2 architecture.
Size-wise, Holden says the next generation Commodore is longer than VT, but shorter than VF. But inside, interestingly, you're not actually paying a massive compromise in interior space than what you would have thought. Legroom is exactly the same. Head space, there's 13mm less head space than before. The biggest difference is shoulder width. This car is a lot narrower than the Commodore, which means you get 36mm less shoulder width. The upshot is that it's probably best suited to 2 passengers rather than 3 in the back, but I'll tell you what, it's certainly not short on space in person.
The Commodore now gets a split folding rear seat, while boot space is said to be similar in size to the predecessor. We're going to tell you the first impression is that it does feel like a Commodore. The V6 engine generates 230 kilowatts and 370 newton meters and is tied to a smooth shifting 9-speed automatic transmission. The other revelation, in top spec models at least, is the fitment of a new all-wheel drive system. It's got that same effortless acceleration from a standstill. The gearbox is quite lazy and effortless as well, and the car just feels quite composed even in this early engineering calibration. There's a few telltale Commodore signs as well that the A-pillars are still quite thick, and the car does feel big out on the road even though it is a lot smaller than before. The steering as well is quite light, it weighs up nicely around the ratio and it feels quite accurate. I think the most impressive part of the drivetrain is that 9-speed automatic. You can get up to 100 kilometers an hour and you're sitting at 1200 RPM. It just spins the engine along nicely, it's smooth, it's refined. The drivetrain is accompanied by new technology including Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as Swish new display screens and a suite of new safety technology. The most encouraging feature of the drive is that the test mules were only 65% complete, and with more refinement and finessing, the Commodore shows a lot of promise.
So if the Commodore up until now has been a car built by Australia for Australia, how would you describe this next generation model? Well, certainly it's the sign of the times. It's got more technology, it's safer, and it's way more efficient than the cars before it. Will the market agree? Well, that's yet to be seen, but even from the very first prototype drive, the first impression is certainly strong.